Hi, and welcome to my videos to help you on your calligraphy journey. This video is from a new series where I'm going to be writing sentences. There is going to be a lot more writing and a lot less talking. And I'm interested to writing the sentences in real time at the real speed. So you can see the movement of my hand. You can see the movement while doing the letters, and I might be talking about certain aspects, but it's a lot more of the demo. Hopefully this is gonna be helpful. So as always, I'm using Walnut ink. I'm using an oblique pen holder, Hand 101, and I always use a couple of fine liners to help me and make notes of my work. I'm currently using an horizontal guideline that looks like that in here. It's a 6 millimeters guideline based on the classic proportions. And if you need to work with blank guidelines, you can follow the link on my bio on Instagram. And once you subscribe to my newsletters, you'll get an automatic email with a link to download a set of blank guidelines. So I already made a mess in here, but I want to recycle the paper and use it. So yeah, let's see how I go with that. So the first sentence is a popular saying that I have written in front of me, so I make sure that I don't make spelling mistakes, and I need to give emphasis on this aspect of spelling mistakes, because a lot of us don't understand that not only we need to learn how to write copperplate and the rules and how to bend the rules and how to make it very personal and many other aspects of it, but the point we need to also understand is that we don't write by hand anymore, or very, very little. And when we are typing, it's easier to go back and correct the spelling mistake. But when we are doing this with pen and ink, it is not. So it requires a level of focus that it's rarely used in our modern life. So even if you use your handwriting and not a copperplate nib, and you have to write a longer couple of sentences, this in itself is going to be a challenge for you, regardless of the style of calligraphy that you are using. Okay, so I'm going to go in and I'm going to go much closer. So you see where I'm sitting in here. So I'm going to start with a capital D for the quote. So the quote is, the first one is, "Don't get your knickers in a knot, love." This is a popular saying from Australia, and we are going to use it because we have a few letters like K's that are not so common and are important to use. So let's go. I'm going to start with a capital D, which I don't know if you know, but capital D is one of these letters that you might do one good and 100 that are not so great. But whatever it happens, you have to be okay with that. It's part of the process, part of the learning. So let's start. So first letter, and then don't, O-N-T. See that the position of my pen is aligned to the 55-degree angle. The next word is get. The next word is your. it is important to be checking what we are doing in terms of consistency of spacing and the width. So I can say to myself, this O, second O, is much narrower than the first one. Is this going to be a disaster? Obviously not. It's just a good point for me to realize what's going on. So trying to get consistent. This is done by hand, obviously, as you're seeing right now. And this is going to look slightly different every time. If we want everything to look exactly the same, we can select a really beautiful font. And we know that a lot of the times, every letter is going to be every letter is going to be the same unless we use a contextual or a discretionary alternate. So by doing this by hand, we understand that there is going to be irregularities. It's going to be some shaky movements at some point. This is what makes it human. So the idea of something looking perfect is not really interesting me anymore at this point, but of doing something that is personal. So don't get your knickers, the next word, starting with a K. I'm going to use two variations of the K. I almost did a spelling mistake here on the E. I don't know if you realized that, but I went and I thought I was going to do an N and I just realized in time. So in this case, I could save it. So I'm lucky. So let's go. The next word is in. So I'm moving the paper slightly. I'm looking at the space between words as well. And you see the two variations of case. A. And then again, another word with a K, not. And love. So I'll add a comma and some space. Excellent. So if I go out, now you're going to see that I started practicing this sentence just before the video. It helps me to understand the movements. It helps me to understand the length. And especially it just helps me to get the spelling because I'm just copying what I have done. So you can see that the first one was a little bit wider, so occupies a lot more space. This is a very good practice if you have to do an assignment or just a title or a present for somebody. It is not the same to practice than creating work. So the next advice is produce work, not don't stop at practicing, because practicing is the safest space and you know at some point you need to get out of it. Now the next sentence is the act of doing is the only proof of a skill. So let's go here and much closer again. Okay. So let's start. The first capital letter is letter T. So let's start with that. Now, because I have a letter H in here, I have a few options. I could create a ligature. I could create a really short loop for the ascender of the H. Or in this case, what I'm going to do is I decided that I'm going to get rid of the loop of the H and create a variation in here. So off doing. So now I'm going to do the G. And the letter F is the first letter that has two loops, or even if it only had one, it will work exactly the same. So I have the first loops as a reference. So what I'm doing now is once I do the G, I'm going to be looking at the loops of the Fs and trying to create something consistent. So is the only, let's move. Again, I'm looking at the loops of Fs and Gs and the other loops, and I'm trying to get a very similar look and feel. I know it's not gonna be 100% the same, but I'm looking for something that is consistent. The act of doing is the only proof of the skill. So I'm gonna choose one of the pieces that I like. I decide to use a different F to create variation in the writing. So from here, I am gonna leave it now because there is a lot of ink and it's wet, and I will come back to this and just finish the exit of the F once it's completely dry. The only proof of a skill. So hopefully is dry or drier, and I can come from here add an exit for this F, for example. Okay, so if I go out now, and you see the two sentences in real time and the one I previously did, I'm trying to get a very similar look and feel. If I had to do this for an assignment, I can ask myself many questions like, is this the ratio I want? The classic ratio 2:1:2. If you want to learn more about ratios, you can go to my Copperplate variations playlist, and there is a video that talks about ratios in there. Is this the amount of contrast that I want? Is the sentence going to be in one line, or when I want to break it in 2 or 3 lines? Do I want to create different levels of hierarchy? So some letters are more important than the others. So we are talking a lot about design and problem solving. So we get into a new stage of the learning, which is not only about learning how to write the letters, but then how to create a composition, how to design a title, and what are the things that we want to make important. So let me know if this is something helpful, and if you want to see more examples of different quotes written at the real time. Thank you very much.